Our world has dramatically changed over the last month. How is your family handling social distancing? Are your kids okay? No, I'm not okay. I'd say that this pandemic has definitely been a traumatic event in my life. We still do school, but we don't get any of the social benefits that come from it. We've worked hard all of our lives to graduate from high school, and we don't even get to celebrate or walk with our class. Our trip to Hawaii to dance in the Polynesian Cultural Center has been canceled, and so has our trip to New York to sing in Carnegie Hall. And to make matters worse, we're running out of ice cream. In this video, our mom will share with you a few tips to help your kids cope with the chaos and the challenges of today. Check it out.
Considering all of the chaos in the world today, I thought it might be a good time to talk about how we can help our kids cope with the disaster. Because bad things happen. As much as we might wish otherwise, close friends and relatives die. Painful things happen to our bodies, and there are natural disasters and wars. And sometimes people do sensibly horrible things to other people. Right now, our world is isolated. The kids' normal routine of being able to go to school and the other activities that they normally participate in have all been interrupted. And this can be very difficult for kids to cope with. I have significant experience raising children. I have 8 children and 3 stepchildren for a total of 11 kids, and I have 15 grandkids. I also have a degree in marriage, family, and human development. That means I should know it all, right? Not a chance. I've made a ton of mistakes, but I understand what works and what doesn't work. Our kids are being bombarded with all kinds of headlines that are terrifying because they don't have the ability to process it as an adult would. What exactly are your children seeing? How do they interpret it in their limited frame of reference? Do not assume that they understand what's going on with the same frame of reference that an adult has. This can be scary for us as adults, but the children overhear bits and pieces, and this can be quite frightening for them. Children are concrete thinkers. They need to see it, feel it, touch it, taste it. They are unable to actually process abstract concepts. Now, older children are different. As children age, they do a better job of being able to handle abstract thoughts and ideas. Food storage has been a way to solve this problem for our family because it's very concrete. It's been interesting for me to note over the years that as my children watch the news, they will be afraid of something that is happening on the news someplace far away from us. And then they turn around and say, "But we'll be okay, Mom, right? Because we have our food storage." Well, food storage might not have anything to do with the wildfire that they're looking at. But in their own minds, it brings them peace and security. Just remember that concrete things can bring peace to children. It's important that we empower children with knowledge. Develop a family emergency plan together and then practice it. Evaluate it together. What went right? What went wrong? How can we make this better? Do it together. Involve them in this process. Teach your children how to plan, execute, evaluate, and improve. Help your children develop a playbook that will help them understand what to do when they are faced with the tough situations in everyday life. These are plays that have been specifically designed to make sure your child knows exactly what to do. School lockdowns are an example of schools developing plays and teaching kids how to respond to a gunman in the school. In our family, we like to play the what if, what then game. What if there was an earthquake right now? What would I do? What if I were lost out here all alone? What options do I have? Train children to play various scenarios out in their minds where they face a threat and are always successful in defeating that threat. Make sure that the threat is age appropriate. That's really important. But in this situation, what if I were lost out here alone? Well, let's talk about what would her options be. What would happen if she did this? What would happen if she did that? Be positive, guide them, and praise them. This simple exercise trains their brains to spring into action during a real crisis. But make sure that you have the courage to face the tough scenarios because it doesn't always turn out well. Make sure that you model a realistic but positive attitude. What if Mom and Dad were killed in the earthquake? Then I would go live with Aunt Susie. I would miss them so much, but I would be okay. I would be safe and I would be taken care of. Things don't always turn out perfectly, and we need to make sure that we help children understand that if it doesn't turn out like we would like it to, that life can still be good. Take the time to teach your children basic skills that are age appropriate for them to learn. Teach your children to love to work. Hard work brings joy and satisfaction, but sometimes in the society that we live in, there's a thought that sitting behind a computer screen is where you really find joy. And that's not true. And we need to help our kids learn to love to work hard. Model self-reliance and provident living in your everyday life. What you do will be remembered long after the words that you say have been forgotten. Teach service and sacrifice. It is interesting to note that in concentration camps, those who were selfless and showed love and served others had higher rates of survival. Teach children to serve in their everyday life. Be your child's biggest fan and truly believe that they have the power to succeed. You have the ability to give them an amazing ability to believe in themselves when they understand that you honestly believe that they can do anything. We like to provide mastery experiences for our kids. We give them opportunities to succeed at difficult tasks. Let's take the example of climbing to the peak of a mountain. When the child is tired, cold, and ready to give up, encourage them and don't let them quit. Future challenges in life can then be compared to this mastery experience. I made it to the top of that mountain. Surely I can do this, and name whatever the smaller challenge is. I am bigger than any challenge. I can do this. The children will learn that through your ability to teach them and help them have mastery experiences. Promote faith, not fear, in your words and actions. Talk through their doubts and fears. It's okay to admit that you're afraid. You can see our little Christy here with this great big snake. She was afraid, and yet we talked through it. This was a safe situation, but it can be really scary. Courage is about being afraid and yet accomplishing the important task or objective. Christy would never be the same after reaching out and petting the snake. It is important to acknowledge that life can be rough, that some challenges are really, really tough, but your child can do hard things, and you're the one that needs to help them understand that. Foster independence while nurturing a love for others and a desire to make the world a better place because they are in it. Give your child as much independence as is appropriate for their age and abilities. I love this photo where one of our girls is pushing the lawnmower right next to Jonathan. He's scaffolding. He's there to support and make sure that she's safe. There's no way she's old enough to mow the lawn by herself. Jonathan is busy fostering independence and helping her to become ready for a time when she will be able to mow the lawn all by herself. This is a big one, especially considering what's going on all around us with COVID-19 and being confined to our homes. Video games and television need to be kept to a minimum. Excessive time on devices is damaging to developing minds, and it interferes with healthy relationship development. To the extent possible, replace that screen time with real-life adventures. Help your children explore their world. Teach them how to find answers to their questions and to take their knowledge to the next level. Normally, we would encourage our children to limit their texting, and we'd encourage face-to-face interaction. Right now, we're encouraging their texting and limiting their face-to-face interaction due to the pandemic. COVID-19 has created a lot of emotional and economical challenges for us personally and in our family. But it is important that you take a step back and remember that your children mirror your emotions. This was one of the first days when I was letting our kids in a new neighborhood ride their bikes longer than they'd ever ridden them before to a new school. As a mom, that was a little bit frightening for me. They were old enough to do this, they're capable, and so I needed to wear a confident, happy face that yes, everything was going to be just fine. And that is what we as parents need to be doing right now, is having an optimistic attitude in our faces, in our actions, and in the words that we speak. Our children need to have the confidence and the skills that they need to protect themselves in dangerous situations. Kenny and Christy had their tonsils out on the same day, and this was a really scary thing for them. We need to learn to be able to explain the facts and listen. Using language your child is able to comprehend, explain what is going on. This does not mean that we recount every gruesome or horrific detail, but understanding what is happening, why it is happening, and where the next step is provides us with a base for children to grasp onto. Do not lie to your children. They are smarter than you might think. Once you have this basis established, be prepared for questions, fears, concerns, and for the consistent and constant repetition of these questions. Our new world is a traumatic event. The children are no longer on their normal routine. They've been taken away from their friends, out of their school, out of their sporting events. This can be very traumatic. In order to deal with traumatic events emotionally, your child must first come to understand and accept what it is. The older the child, the easier it is for them to comprehend and internalize what's going on. The way that you respond to stress and trauma will show your children how they should respond. Maintain a sense of calm no matter what the circumstances are. And if that time comes, you need to get it together and fake it. Make sure that your children know that you love them. Focus on the blessings in your life. Recognize their fears and your fears, and do all in the power to calm and comfort your children. Children may show signs of trauma for years after the event, and what you do or don't do during this pandemic may directly influence the time it takes them to get through it. Children thrive in a scheduled environment. Younger children especially should have set times throughout the day where specific events should happen. Mealtime, nap time, art time, playtime, quiet time. To the best of your ability, create a schedule that works for you and stick to it. Go to bed at the same time every night. Get up in the morning at the same time. The consistency provides a sense of safety and familiarity, and be willing to adapt as necessary. We don't know how all of this is going to turn out, but we do know that we can adapt. Whatever it is, we will evaluate the situation, we'll come up with a plan, and we will adapt, and it's going to be okay. You, as a parent, are the greatest sign of peace to your children. Spend time with them. Show them that you can be happy even during difficult times. And sometimes, let me tell you, we have a little bit too much family togetherness and we need to back away from each other. As we spend time together, our children will develop a sense of security and the time will pass faster. As we spend time together, we create positive memories, and positive memories have the ability to help replace some of the negative memories. Overcoming these hardships may be the end result, but the process of doing so is what children will remember and return to in times of need. Watch for changes in your child's behavior. Traumatic and stressful events tend to force children into a state of regression. Their behavior may become more difficult and less characteristic of where they previously were. They might have more tantrums. They may start wetting the bed again. They might start acting out. As you observe these changes, remember that these behavioral manifestations help you to understand that your child is dealing with something emotionally. Take a step back and love your child. Help them to find security and peace, and as you do, these behaviors will probably take care of themselves. Take time to understand and recognize what triggers your children and initiates their inappropriate behaviors. Just as important, recognize what triggers you have as well so that you are able to maintain composure and consistency. It is hard being a mom or a dad, and children aren't the only ones that are suffering right now. But the truth is, you're the grown-up and you're the one that needs to act like one. Each of your children will respond differently to the events at hand, and it is important to adapt for each child's unique needs. What works for one will not likely work for everyone. A lot of this just comes down to having a good offense, to being a proactive parent. Disaster-resilient kids are created through thoughtful and proactive parenting. Nothing can take the place of you being an active part of your child's life. You have a great opportunity to influence your children as well as their friends. A month ago, I would have never imagined that we would be where we are right now. Our world has been turned upside down. And yet it is really important that all of us find peace in this chaotic world. And that means that kids need to be able to be kids. As families, we need to help each other find joy regardless of the challenges that we are facing. Yes, this is tough, but we can do hard things. You might want to visit our post, 3 Steps to Raising Disaster Resilient Kids, or we also have kind of a fun YouTube video, Raising Kid Preppers. And now might be a really good time to view our video on family emergency plans. It has some really good ideas about how to develop your family emergency plan so that regardless of what happens, you and your family will make it through it just fine.
None of this is easy. Working together, we can make it through anything, including the coronavirus. And now for the question of the day. How are you handling social distancing? Have you found any creative ways to help your children cope with this new world? Comment below, and thanks for being part of the solution.